Hey, welcome back to the franchise answering your great questions. Again, please keep them coming in. This one comes from Mason Kavanaugh at Mason Leon Kavanaugh at somewhere. If you had to pick one wrestler for the past or present, who is the one opponent you'd love to have had a match with? Great question, Mason. And I'm not going to, it'll sound like I'm trying to not answer your question. This is the best answer I can give to that question. I've been watching wrestling by and large since about 1967, 68. So I have a really expansive view of all the different eras of wrestling from that time. And I've shared locker rooms with the greatest of the greats, and so like when people always ask me, hey, who's on Mount Rushmore with you? I'm not. I mean, God almighty, I could name 500 other people who would be up there before I would be. But, when you watch guys in our business, I mean, there's so many names I could throw out. Obviously I'm going to start with Ricky Steamboat, right? My partner. Ricky taught Shane Douglas how to be a main eventer. Even though I'd be a main eventer as a heel, which he never was. But Steamer has an incredible head for this business. And to watch this process, like when Ricky and I were working with Brian and Steve, it's the same thing every night. We'd get what number we were on, what match, how long they wanted, and then he'd put a chew in, 2 styrofoam cups, one with a napkin in it as a spitter, cup of coffee. And you'd just watch him just sort of bebop around the ring, sit down for a few minutes, and get up and walk a little bit more. And about 30, 40 minutes later, he'd come back, okay, I got it. Me and Steve and Brian would go into the room with him, and he would say, okay, tonight. But it was not like, here's the spots we're going to do, and here's the moves we're going to do. On the third one, this is what we'll do. It was a more of a general layout. Okay, heat be on Shane tonight. My comeback will be started with this. And so it was just a general layout of what we would be doing that night. What kind of heat? Like, hey, you worked his neck the last time, work his leg tonight. Very, very non-specific. I mean, very specific in a non-general kind of way. It was never, okay, we'll get the heat after the first 3 minutes, and then we're going to do this and this and that, and then this is going to happen. It was never that. It was a general layout of the psychology and the flow of the match. And when you watch Ricky, obviously I'm a connoisseur of our business. I am so knocked out whenever I see the greats do it, and it just looks effortless, like me breathing. And when you watch it, it's sort of that man, mad respect, like golf clap, wow, it's incredible. Steamboat was like that every night. And if you watch closely, you'll see me on the apron, and Steamboat would take a bump and, hey, get in the match, partner. You're not a spectator, you're in the match. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be working out here. He was true gentleman to work with, to travel with, just an all-around great guy. If you've ever heard anybody say anything bad about Ricky, you can probably look at the person, because I always joke, like, you are the nicest person in wrestling. And but imagine the dressing rooms that I sat in. Harley Race, the Funks, Dorian Terry, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Rick Steamboat, Rick Rude. Just go through this list and just go, my God. The Freebirds. Michael, great on the stick, not great in the ring. Buddy and Bam Bam were masters in the ring. So that triumvirate had everything covered. And Eddie Gilbert, because he passed away so young and was smaller and never really hit that big main event status, Eddie was a brilliant mind for the wrestling business. I mean, he's one of those guys that just 24 hours a day, his wheels were turning on wrestling. I love wrestling, and I like to talk about wrestling at points, like these answering these questions. But after about an hour, I'm ready to talk about politics or the weather or what's for dinner tonight. So there are so many guys in the business, and I wish I could just nail it down and say, boy, one. Now, to answer the question, if I had to pick one person of any era to have a match with, assuming both of us in our prime, franchise in his prime and Bruno Sammartino in his prime. And in large part, because again, being a Pittsburgh boy, we grew up with Bruno. Bruno and Dominic were both part of the fabric in Pittsburgh. Larry Richard, who's a great KDKA talent, KDKA, the CBS affiliate in Pittsburgh. He gave a rousing, chilling, incredible speech at Bruno's eulogy. What do they call that, Chris? Eulogy. Yeah, he didn't say. He's looking at me with a stupid look. Like, well, it popped in my head. The eulogy that Larry Richard said, I'm sure nobody recorded it. But if there's anywhere that you can find a transcript of it or anything like that, Larry, if you got that, man, please put it out. Because if you grew up in Pittsburgh, even if you didn't like wrestling or watch it, you understood every single thing about Bruno was related to Pittsburgh. And it was rousing. It's just sitting there listening to it. And I thought, boy, if there's somebody that could do a better eulogy, I'd pay to see it because it was incredible. But as we're sitting there, me and Dominic and Cody Michaels, Mark Keenan, of course, his daughter and son-in-law, Danielle and George, and then all the other people that were there, it was, obviously we're all heartbroken. Bruno, who was, they call him a living legend for a reason. So for me, having grown up in Pittsburgh and watching Bruno and learning from Bruno and watching how he conducted himself, true gentleman and very much unlike me or a lot of other people in the business today. And I think there's a lot we could probably learn from that. But because he was so dynamic in the ring, granted, different eras, he sold out every building he headlined for 12 years. As somebody that's been in the main event spot, that if you said, okay, Shane, you got to sell out every building for the next 12 years, no, thank you. I'll pass. Give the belt to Scotty, because that's incredible. That's an incredible feat. Again, different time, different era. Today with all the social media, back then you'd read in the newspaper, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, hey, Bruno's going to be at the Civic Arena this Friday night. But, going, my dad taking me that, it was just that moment in my life where I was just such a sponge taking pop culture in. And sitting there in the smoke-filled, cigarette smoke-filled Pittsburgh Civic Arena and seeing Bruno, the shadows of that chest that looked like a mountain, it was incredible. I mean, it was so thrilling to watch. And me at my best and Bruno at his best, I think would have been an incredible match. And it would have worked babyface and heel. But if I could have worked Piper in his prime, if I could have worked Harley Race in his prime, I mean, you can go on down that list. I mean, there were so many people that were influential on my career, but I was also a mark for. And like I said, all of these men and women, I would watch and think, like, man, these guys are incredible. Like, the talent level is off the charts. Because when you've done what we do, and you've done it for the length that we've done it, and you see somebody can get in there and make it look effortless, that is, I have to work at it. I mean, I have to really bust my ass to go out there and have those kind of matches. You'd watch something like Sabu and just fluidly, it looked like chaos, it looked like madness released. But there was a rhyme or reason to what he was doing in there. My son, Caden, right after Sabu had died, he'd found a clip of me versus Sabu. It was basically a clip of Sabu hit me with all his big moves. And so he'd hit play, and he'd hit me with the move. He'd stop and go, did that hurt? No. Did that hurt? And we went through this whole thing, and I said only every third punch was a tater from Sabu. But when you watch him, and you see this just, the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal, all this craziness that Sabu's doing, he was very much in control of that. That wasn't just throwing shit to the wind to see if it sticks. He was very much in control. And the fact that he could do it so safely, the first time I'm laying on that mat and I see this guy go to the top of the ring, the turnbuckle with a steel chair, knowing he's going to come down on my head. That's really hard to force your body to just hope he doesn't kill me. And he'd do it and you go, did he didn't touch you. He was amazing in that respect. There's so many guys and women in the business. Again, for everybody that's not familiar with this, when I say the boys, I mean the men and the women in our business. So many that are so skilled at what we do. That is just mad respect for it because, again, it's not easy. And I think anybody's being honest with you in this business will tell you the same thing because it takes time to learn it. It takes time to get decent at it. It takes a long time to even come close to mastering it. And so there, hope I answered your question. That was a great question again. And yeah, I'd love to be, but honestly, my own little special way, I wish I had a time machine that I could go back, take me back to my prime and go back to when Luthez was wrestling or Gotch or, because there was a lot of talent way back then even. So appreciate the question.